Welcome back, everybody. Here we are in Cusco, Peru. Hopefully you were able to see the previous video of me flying the Joby over to Machu Picchu. That's a really cool scenery that I downloaded, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Here we are back in Citation 10, continuing on to our next destination on this tour of South America, where we will be flying to. I thought that this is the highest airport. It actually isn't. The highest airport in all of in the entire Western Hemisphere is La Paz, Bolivia. So that is where we're going. That airport is it's almost 14,000 feet. So let's get inside and see what we've got here. That master warning, that is simply there because it's giving us a cabin altitude error. I should say cabin altitude failure. Well, that's because we are at 10,800 feet above sea level, and don't worry, where we're going, it ought to be very interesting as soon as we open the door when we get down to our destination in La Paz, Bolivia, because, well, it's going to be roughly 3,000 feet higher than this. Again, highest airport in the entire Western Hemisphere. So, as soon as we close that main door, the aircraft should begin to pressurize with the air coming off of the AP. You really need to double check that we've got that coming in. We do. Let's go ahead and bring out the EFB and tell it to close the doors here. Main door. As soon as that happens, we should see a presentation. That away real quick, and we'll be on our way. As you can see, I've got the aircraft all set. Everything's been checked out and briefed. Let me go over here. Check out our presentation. Are we beginning to pressurize yet? We should be. Let's see here. We're going to go ahead and because this aircraft climbs so very, very fast. What we're going to do is I'm going to dial in our cruise, which is going to be 39,000 feet. As you can see, estimated time en route, given the winds that I just looked at, is going to be a whopping 37 minutes. Alright, the pressurization error, I should say, the pressurization master warning should go off as soon as we get the engines up and running. So let's do that. We're gonna keep in mind the fuel burn, and what will make this departure interesting is how much runway we actually end up utilizing here in Cusco and how much runway we end up utilizing down in La Paz, just to bring us to a stop. So as soon as we get the engines up and going, then just before we get the engines up and going, let's brief up the flight very briefly here. No unintended. We're on the Taujua 3 RNP departure with our exit point, as some guys out there call it, other people call it transition, the minus transition, flight level for level 210. And that is already plugged into the FMS. So let's go ahead and brief it up real quick. The entire departure. And so here we are. 10,860 feet above sea level. Before V1, any engine failure, master warning, master caution, or warning fire, system degradation, or any loss of directional control, or if it's a wind shear alert, we'll do an immediate reject. I'll bring the throttles down to idle. And we'll deploy spoilers and speed brakes. If it's a hydraulic issue, then obviously we won't do that. But we will apply maximum braking. Hopefully it would not be a hydraulic issue, and both of those things could happen. If it's not an engine issue, then I will utilize reverse thrust as required, bring the aircraft to a complete stop on the remaining runway. On the amount of runway remaining, I should say. And then after V1, as nothing happens, we continue the takeoff roll. We'll take whatever emergency that we're experiencing into the air with us, establish a positive rate of climb. We get the gear up to clean up the aircraft and reduce as much drag as possible. And do our very best to stay above the terrain at a minimum of 1,000 feet or greater. As for the SID, we're going to be advising the 2003 departure, and we're going to be making sure that we remain within that RNP of 0.30. Coming out here at any rate, per the chart that you're looking at right now, we're going to ensure that the URC and the ZCO VORs are deselected in the FMC sensor configuration. Because in this aircraft that is required by departure by procedure rules. And as soon as we get off the ground, we're going to depart on a heading of 101 and a heading of 100, so there's a 1 degree difference as we get out of the valley, and then we begin to go through our LNAV waypoints beginning with Zulu 0540 and then Zulu 0544, so on and so forth. And the only altitude restrictions that we had to cross waypoint Zulu 0556 at or above 16,200 feet ASL. Speed limit max below 10, which really does not apply to us, but if it did, it would be 250 knots of indicated airspeed. And as I said, the entry transition, as we're flying it, continuing the drag via the assigned transition, which in this case is Bill Knox, India Lima Mike Oscar X-ray, and climbing so that we can hit that specific transition at a minimum of 21,000 feet. If there is an emergency on the way out of here, such as engine out contingency, after V1, we're going to maintain V2 speed at the best we can in this very thin air. And then we're going to follow the engine out emergency escape procedure that is along the valley center line. We will not attempt any immediate turn back to Cusco until fully established above our safe minimum, which is our safe minimum altitude, which due to the mountain peaks on both sides of the valley is 18,000 feet or above. And we're going to make sure that our terrain display is on, which it is, as you can see over on the first officer's navigation display, that the terrain is on, and that with TCAS is set to TARA, which, let's just double check that, which it is. So there's a briefing. Let's I'll get those engines up and running, and the cabin should begin to pressurize. So let's go one by one. to engine number 2 first. We had the ground collision warning. Not the ground collision, I'm sorry. Our recon. Recon. It's been a while. Our beacon is what I meant to say. Alright. Engine number 2. Spin that up. And give it fuel. Oh. Give them both fuel. Looking good. 400 on the ITT. Looking for a hot start. And 1 rotation. We've got a good start. Alright. Left engine. You can hear the hydraulics pressurizing. Looking at that left engine. There we go. And a 1 rotation. ITT's coming up. There's 300 degrees, 400, 500. And looks like it's in a 10th out at 557. But look at that, both engines are perfectly in sync with each other without me having to turn on the engine sync. So that is a good thing. Alright, let's put in flaps for takeoff, and since we're at such a high altitude, we need flaps 15 to give us as much lift as we possibly can. V speeds are already in the box. V1. That's just me moving the trim down to where it needs to be, which is at 6.2. Alright, V1, 127, rotate at 129, and V2, which is our safety speed, 133. Alrighty, good to go there. And we are ready to rock. Cross-check the altimeters, as I already did. 3042, if you're on inches, if you're on the metric system, 1030 on the QNH. Alright. Taxi lights, we're going to have to do a back taxi on runway 10, so we're going to turn on our landing lights, release the parking brake, which is way back here. There we go, brakes are off. I'll keep the aircraft from, prevent the aircraft from rolling, and then we'll be on our way, and we won't have to have our head stuck down here in these light tag the entire time. Windshield heat and anti-collision lights are the only things that have yet to go here. Everything else is good to go. We can now turn off the APU. And again, the cabin should begin to pressurize. That is the first time I've ever received such a warning. When I landed here, and you can watch that video of a little while back, that was not an issue. Alright, brakes just released. You gotta get out of the way of that truck and that. Well, alright, I guess we need to push. Let's call the tug that nobody is in. It's being driven by, maybe it's being operated by AI. Who knows? Alright. Just want to avoid the truck. And I already know that nothing behind us. Double check that. Well, I thought we had to do it back to taxi runway 10, but we don't. That's alright. We will leave the landing lights and the strobes on. Or I can brake. Set. Let's do one more thing, and that is check out the flight controls. Okay, good. I actually bring that up on the IPS. All the way left. Yep. All the way to the right. Very good. Elevator. 2 up, 2 down. And the rudder. Full travel. Very good. Everything else looks good to go. Let's get rid of the yoke. Everything else is good to go. Temperature in the cabin is set. Electrical systems looking good. Fuel looking good. We don't need a lot of it because again the flight is so very short. If I can keep it at Mach 0.92, we're looking at 29 minutes en route. Alright. Let's perform a very, very beautiful departure. At the same time, a fairly dangerous one. So, keeping an eye on that pressurization warning. I don't know why it's there. The aircraft should be pressurizing, but keep an eye on that on the way out. Okay, brakes off. And here we go. We are not flying on VATSIM. I looked at the VATSIM map earlier, and nobody's on. So takes a little more thrust to get rolling here, and I hope that is because of the altitude, not just because I have the tiller all the way to the right. So, on our way out, how's everybody been doing? Good? Good. Glad to hear it. Alright. Looking right out those mountains. As I remember, coming into this airport, we were coming in on runway 28, which is a procedure that you almost have to do, but in that case, the winds are out of the northwest, if I remember correctly. And I've chosen not to utilize the auto throttle. It's just a little fun to. It's fun to do things manually so you don't get bored. Alright. What we're gonna do, we're gonna line up on the runway and we're going to set the brakes with the rudder pedals. Excuse me. And run the engines all the way up to takeoff power. Release, make sure that takeoff power is all the way to 87.2%. And release the brakes and off we go. Simply because the air is so very thin And then, as I said, it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for us to come to a stop in La Paz, Bolivia, just by utilizing the thrust reversers. That'll be very, very interesting. Alright. Here we go. All the way forward. Brakes release. Little windy. V1. Rotate. Pause the right gear up. Yeah. Parking brake. Let's focus on our climb rate. Make sure we don't lose any airspeed here. Climbing autopilot so I can monitor the that's a weird way to do it. It locks on to the next departure fix. There we go. Give altitude. Caution. Kind of expecting that. Let's see, holding 1400 feet per minute. Repressurizing now. Yes, we are. Alright, flaps 5. Let's go nose up. Let's see what we can do in 2,000 a minute. If we can't, then we'll simply go back down to 1,500. There is that mountain. Cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head, but at the old airport in Quito, Ecuador, just to the north, you can see one that looks a lot like that. But anyway. Alright, flaps. I'm gonna leave those out just a little longer. Looks like we are going to meet those minimum altitude requirements of 21,000 feet. We will be meeting those with no problem whatsoever. Alright, flaps up, but we'll leave the slats out as soon as we get out of this turn. Let's see what happens. Still continuing to speed up and climbing without having to, without having to change the vertical speed. Slants up. And let's see see what it does with this last up. Alright. Let's get up to 280 knots indicated, and then we'll switch the flight level change. And we'll see if it can hold us at that speed. Gonna leave the engines in takeoff thrust just a little bit, forward just a little bit, just as soon as we get near 18,000. Let's go ahead and set up the standard altimeter 2992, and on the back up 2992. If you would like to see me do a tutorial on how to start the aircraft from no battery and all the way up to ready for taxi, drop a comment below and I'll do one. Alright, we can be climbing pretty darn good. Continuing our grounds, continuing our speed acceleration as well. Everything's looking pretty good. Expand our expanding the range on the nav display out to 50, which is 100. There's our Ilmax transition. You can see there just to our 130, 1 o'clock. And that's where we have to be at 21,000. We're going to be beating that by a good number, which is good. It's looking like 2,000 feet is going to be, yeah, let's see what happens if I pull back to cruise power, I'm sorry, climb power. When I get up to 320, and then we'll begin to play with how fast we can really climb. Let's hop outside real quick and give everybody a good view of what's going on down below. Pretty wild, isn't it? Pretty wild. Alright, we're continuing to gain speed at 2,000 feet per minute. Let's go ahead and get it up. Let's see what happens at 20. Let's go for 2,500. See how fast it begins to drop. Now remember, at this point, you should not be looking at your indicated airspeed. You should begin to look at your Mach number. The air is too thin to be looking at your indicated airspeed. Mach 0.7. 0.72. Alright, as long as we're continuing to climb at 2,500 feet per minute and with a Mach number of 0.722 and getting faster, we'll leave it at 2,500 feet per minute. And the airline driver and me always align your heading bug with your current heading. Just in case something happens, you can switch over to heading hold while you mitigate, go over whatever circumstances that you are experiencing. Apologies, as it has been such a long while since I did a video. It's been some interesting things. I have been doing some interesting things. One of which, taking my wonderful little dog who's asleep on the floor here in the office. His name is Habu, some of you may know that already. And went to the Kalamazoo in Michigan, the Kalamazoo Air Museum. And they allowed us to take a stage of photographs of me for my birthday. And that was really, really nice of them to do. I think he was in the museum for maybe 5 minutes. Got some wonderful photographs, and I will be putting out a community post with some of those photographs. So here's Habu, and you'll see me. Just thinking about that, you're going to see the man behind the weird voice that you've been listening to if you watch these videos long enough. You get to see, you'll get to see me for the first time. You also get to meet Abu. And, yeah, he's still fast asleep. He is 1 year old, so again, that was for my birthday. And so there we go. In front of an SR-71, the real thing, at the Kalamazoo Air Museum in Michigan. So Habu and I in front of a real Habu trainer. Those of you may not know, the SR-71 Blackbird, the nickname was the Habu. So a big shout out to the Air Zoo, the Kalamazoo Air Museum, for allowing us to do it. It meant a lot to me and the family, and it's the only SR-71B model in existence, so that makes it even more special. Alright, now we're looking on our speed. There's my 0.755. Now we're gaining one more 1/1000th of a decimal, and we're losing it just a smidge. Alright, we're going to drop that down to 2,000 a minute. Because really, if you think about it, that's pretty awesome that this aircraft can do that with a full load of passengers, by the way. There we go. Now we're beginning to accelerate slowly but surely. Things are looking good. And again, my target is Mach 0.92. When I planned it on the sim brief, it was saying cruising speed of 0.89. And I go, wait a second. Citation 10, we can do faster than that. So we're going to see if we can give you 0.92, which will get us there faster. I did run the numbers on 0.90, and it was saying an en route air time. Let's double check if we got that right. Let's see. Look at it. That's my time en route at 0.9. I'm sorry, 0.86 Mach. In the air. Airtime, yeah, 41 minutes. And we're going to be flying significantly faster than that. So hopefully we can do it, like I said, within a half hour. Take off to touchdown. And we are beginning to lose if you look at the airspeed, whether you're looking at whether or not you are looking at the backup or at the PFD. But now we're leveling off, and let's see what I can do. At 39,000. There we go. Push the nose over after that. And oh, we got a bit of a headwind, so we should begin to really, let's look at our pressurization situation real quick. Are we pressurizing? Oh, I can't see the dial because of the sun. According to the differential pressure, cabin, it says we have a 7,000 foot cabin. And that the cabin rate is still climbing just a little bit, but 39,000 is what we want. As I said, going into the temperature in the cabin just a little warmer than 20 degrees. But as I said earlier, it'll be very, very interesting to see what it does. Going into La Paz, the name of that airport is Alto International. So, which is a very, very, very appropriate name. Let's go back on track here. Auto Center. Bring those engines back to cruise end. There we go. Watching that Mach number. There we go, 0.91. Alright, it's like 0.92, might be pushing it just a little bit. 0.91, I think up once it was a little bit more on just a little more on the engines here. 0.9. Come on, a little more. A little more. Jumps. That's the one issue, is that it just pardon me, instead of the detent just being a detent, it bumps the thrust way up to where we don't need it to be, and then as soon as you move back into cruise, it drops it by several percentage points. I'd like it, but it didn't work that way, but unfortunately it does. Let's see if we can up it a little bit. Yeah, like I said, the engine sync, I just don't think that they actually modeled it. I could be wrong. but when I turn on, whether it's turbine or fan, it just doesn't do anything. So, alright, 0.911, 0.901. That's alright, we can live with that. As I said, we should be there shortly. Let's look at our actual profile. Well, let's look at the life thing real quick. When do we need to begin to descend here? Utilizing runway 10 in La Paz. We're going to begin our descent. So according to SimBrief, we're going to begin our descent over Lake Titicaca. Lake Titicaca, I do believe, is the highest and largest inland lake in all of South America, and quite possibly all of the Western Hemisphere. So you come over Lake Titicaca, and you begin to descend, and La Paz is going to be right in front of you. In fact, we're going to make our turn only about 30 miles northwest of the northwest side of the lake. And the way that the flight plan is set up, we're going to be flying right down the middle of the lake, so you'll have it'll be interesting little part of the sightseeing on this flight. And that nasty little there you go, there's the lake, the northernmost point of the lake right there. Alright, let's dump those throttle back up to the climb D10. Unfortunately, it spikes up. There's nothing I can do about that. Now, in reality, the landing lines have come off, but this flight, pardon me, this flight is so very short. I'm simply going to leave the lights on where they are. And here comes our entry point for the actual approach, believe it or not, the JULVR. And here comes the turn, and then as soon as we come out of the turn, we'll be looking right down the middle of Lake Titicaca. Be pretty desolate. I believe it was either Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin when they were on the moon. They said, magnificent desolation. Alright. Out of the turn. There's 0.9 to the knock. A little too fast. A little too fast. There we go. Alright. What is the only 71 miles from the La Paz VOR. And again, we're going. Let's look at our weather in La Paz one more time. Let's look at the live weather. And the weather is winds are out of the southeast at 8. The altimeter 1038. Pretty high, but then again, it's 13,000 feet. Alright. We're going to be coming in on runway 10. Yeah, we really don't. Yeah, it didn't give me any arrival to fly. When I say it, I mean sim for you. It gave me runway 10. ILS. Runway 10. Let's look at this one. Victor. Off. PAC. Alright, that's good. Get that in. And then we'll brief it up. As I said, very, very quick flight. Very quick arrival. We're just going to approach. Let's do runway first. Make sure we want runway 10, not runway 10. Left. That's a 4,000 foot runway, really? Well, maybe Subrief got it wrong. Wouldn't be the first time for them to get it wrong. Although there aren't any charts, I find it hard to believe. Let's go back. Let's just try this one here. See if it gives us a different length. I think it's supposed to be 13,000 feet. Oh, I see. Sorry, I was looking at the one. Yeah. 13,000 feet. And for those of you that are interested in what the airlines used to do, they may still do it, but they used to serve the passengers a very interesting type of tea. I'm not going to say what the tea was made out of. You can look that up for yourself. Tea was made of a very interesting substance, shall we say. And that was to help constrict your blood vessels so that when you get off the aircraft, you don't faint. And when you land in La Paz, they do tell you to take it very, very easy when you get out of the aircraft. Because a lot of people they don't listen, and they end up on the ground. And they wake up in the infirmary there. Alright, ILS, X-ray Zulu, and there you go. Let's see if we can do this. ILS. Let's do, let's look at this from a different angle real quick. PAC is the next, is the actual VOR. Let's do this is X-ray. Let's look at Zulu. Not matching up with what the aircraft has at the Victor 10. Either one is going to work fine, really. That was the other one. That's fine. We'll just do vectors. I mean, it's sim brief. What did they give us? They gave us VOR direct. That's what they did. So go back to our. So then you activate that part of it. Go into plan here. Let's just go. We got PAZ there. Discontinuity, which is fine with me. I mean, it should be direct, yeah. Especially from this angle. I mean, we're heading the same direction, almost the same exact direction as the runway itself. So there is a lot of yanking and banking, as they say in the culture. Pretty much way down. Yeah, we need to be descending. Now. Leave that up. Let's go ahead and reduce the altitude. Wait, no, not that. This way. There we go. 13,000. Well, that's a bit below the target, but we'll let you do it. 2,000, yeah, let's say 2,500 in a minute. Bring those engines back. Flying 500 a minute. That worked for me. Bring those engines all the way back. Yeah, we'll get on the ground nice and shortly. Let's see, we should be appearing on this map here. Any site, there we are, top left. There we are, flying to, where we, PAZ, yep, PAZ VR. Alright, let me look at this. Okay, let's look at one more performance number. Just want to make sure. That we got this one number, that is the approach speed, because of the lack of density of air. One minor calculation. Indicated. Really? Why do I not like that? Keep those engines engaged, slow it down an awful lot, which is fine with me. We got a ways to go. Alright. As you can see, we did not burn hardly any fuel in the grand scheme of things. Let's add a little bit of speed brake action here. Just a bit. Oh, too much. Alright. How about that? At that rate, we can really put it down. That's interesting. Hey, nose down, nose down, nose down. Let's see what happens at 4,500 feet a minute. Let's bring those suckers all the way out. Okay, that isn't reality. There's no way the aircraft could continue to would slow down that much just by throwing out 100% of the speed brakes. But okie dokie. All right, we're gonna continue on down. Let's look at where we are now on the map. Not quite onto the departure of the arrival plate yet. Well, there you go. A very, very large lake in the middle of a desert. Alright. Our V speeds are going to be 129. I said 130. Okay. It's automated on that. Okie dokie. Alright, we'll leave it at 129, which I find that awful light, but that's just me. We don't need that engine sync. It doesn't do anything. At least I've never seen this aircraft respond to that. The people who designed this aircraft, I just don't think they modeled it at all. Let's go over to our preservation system here. In 13,000. We're already sitting on the cabin, but we just need it. Let's see if we can get it all the way down to. Kind of hard to see, isn't it? And yes, I'm aware that we're going to have to do a. Well, let's stop it at 15,000. $13,300 FMS ground strike point 10 approach. It is, and we're going to intercept the localizer glide path, or the RNAV in this case, so it'll just be a visual. And we'll be maintaining a stabilized approach 1,000 feet of above ground at a VREF of +5, touchdown zone. Runway 10, runway length is 13,124. Alright. But I need that 13,003, so 13,000. Okay, which is gonna be right at, well, 13,000. I should just take it all the way down to 0. That's as far as it goes. Alright, back over here. And we slowed up just enough, and we're low enough to see what in the world is going to happen. Let's look out there. Yeah, I know. It'll just end up, like I said, it'll end up being a visual, although it's already painting a localizer in a glide slope, which I find interesting. Pull up the, what is the frequency here? 1103, autumn tune, what is the, sort of made based on a radar altimeter, not sea level. And let's just put that in at, oops, 300 feet off the deck. There we go. Alright, here's what we're gonna do. Let's go direct all the way to the right, otherwise we're going to be too far out. Yeah, we're going to go. We're going to accept. Let's go direct to that'll work. And we should be, there's a runway right there. We should be slow enough, low enough. Alright. So we come out of the turn. We will be taking over. Again, the pressurization system, that'll be very interesting to me. And all of you watching. Alright. You are one. Yeah, we're using our nav. Alright. Autopilot coming off. Okay. Nice turn to the left. Get slapped in, landing gear down, before I can brake off. So annoying when it happens. Might have overshot the look like, whoa, that's interesting. Goes into the and for too far, if we are too far to the right, then we'll simply just execute the turn to our left. Just there it is. Can we make it in? I mean, it's a very long runway. It's kind of like landing at Edwards Air Force Base. Alright. Can we do it? Let's go. This is a simulator. And even though I like to do things as realistically as possible, this aircraft is just not handling the way it would in the real world. And I did not select the proper altitude setting. I apologize for that. Big time. Alright, let's keep right above. That was a massive oversight on my part. My apologies. Alright, here we go. You gotta be kidding me. Whoa. Windy. Wow. This thing is all over the place. we'll simply use the next turn off. And again, my apologies for not setting the proper altitude. That is I can't believe I did that. I never do that kind of stuff. Okay, flaps up, spoilers are in. I am so accustomed to a built-in checklist, but no excuse, my fault. Let's look at what let's look at what our altimeter is here. My base command, what is it? 3065. All right. Takes a while to do it. I simply want the pressurization system to properly work, as the two are supposed to be coordinated. In other words, the actual altitude differential is supposed to be coordinated with where you are. So turn on the master switch. Preview test the very good. Start it up. Alright. Alright. Yeah, well, what are the winds? 60 knots? Huh. Something was definitely pushing me around. That was a lot windier than that. It's like, the aircraft ahead of us looks like an Embraer 170. Alright. Get rid of this. The FBO is supposed to be on the east side of the field over there by that kinger. This is all for these buildings are all for the airlines. So we'll just go over by the kinger. We'll park it there. There's a beautiful mountain over there. Another 170. Gears here and there. Here we go. Alright. There we go. And make sure. Oh, I see they're part of that actual gate. This, to me, looks like the only FBO, what would be an FBO is right over here to our right. And I am giving it a lot of thrust just to get us smooth, so it does simulate the extremely thin atmosphere. Simulates that very, very well. Park out of the way and over here. Well, that's a very interesting FBO. It looks like we just landed in a small airport in northern Alaska. No, I mean northern Alaska. Barrow or no, one or the other. Alrighty, bring those engines back. Park it right about here. There we go. Alright. Parking brake set. Here we are. Generator and air come out a few. And right engine, fuel off. No, not the flaps. The fuel. It's not the easiest thing in the world to click on. There we go. No. You. There we go. Alright, seatbelts coming off. Lights off. Yeah, windshield heat is not required. Nor is the VO heat. We'll just leave everything else running. And what is the temperature? 60 Fahrenheit, 16 Celsius. And it's very, very, very dry. I mean dry. So you would definitely want to pack a jacket. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, well, they wouldn't care. Alright. Let's make sure the parking brake, we need to do one more thing, and that is tell the guys on the ground. I can just squeeze in here real quick. Shocks would be great. Alright. We'll leave that open. Alright. Well, here we are. Welcome to La Paz, Bolivia, the highest airport in the Western Hemisphere. How do you like that? And there we are. Let's see if we can get a better photo out of this. Not a photo, I meant a better look at the jet with regard to the mountains with snow on top. Because our next destination is not going to have any snow because it never snows there. There's the moon way up there. Well, there we go. Well, thank you for watching. If you made it this far to the video, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, if you found it helpful and entertaining, but helpful in somewhat a quasi-technical sense, please hit subscribe, smash the thumbs up button, and again, sorry about the altimeter not setting properly and the interesting approach, but things happen. But we got on the ground safely, or else I would have asked you to go around if I didn't think you could have done it. So again, thank you all for watching, and as always, frequency change is approved. Fly safe.